let's go back even further in time. I had no idea who Carlos Watson was back in 2018 or so. I had left NBC. I was still in my sitting on the couch figuring things out stage. And he had a booker reach out to me and ask me whether I wanted to go on his show. And I never heard of his show. Like, what's his show? It's on YouTube. Oh, it's exploding. It's big. You know, you should go on. So I did what I always do in these situations. And I had Abby, my assistant, look into whether this is a real person with a real show and is this something I should consider. And this is a montage of people he's had on his shows over the years, but this is a sampling that represents what we found when we started looking into who is Carlos Watson and who does he typically interview. Let's play SOT 50.
Hey, Matthew.
Carlos.
How are you?
I'm good, man. Trying to get my 8 seconds on the bull like everybody is.
Hey, Scarlett. How are you?
Hey, how's it going?
Welcome to the Carlos Watson Show. Thank you for joining me.
You bet.
Bill Gates.
Hey, Matt.
Matt Damon.
Hey, Carlos. How are you?
But now, you know, with this terrible situation with COVID, I'm at home yelling at the screen like my grandfather used to yell at the professional wrestlers.
Okay. So, you know, Bill Gates, big name, tough guest to book. There are a lot of big names in there. And we were told by Carlos's producers what the YouTube traffic was, what the numbers were. And, you know, you sort of just want to make sure that this is up to your level, right? You don't want to go on a show with 4 viewers. So I said yes. And I did go on Carlos's show a couple of times. Here is one example, SOT 51.
Tell me why you started this podcast.
I started it because I wanted to be able to talk about the news in an unbridled way. I feel like more and more we're telling people they have to be quiet or they have to use certain words or not use certain words or don't touch that subject. Or if you touch it, you have to talk about it in this way. And I don't like it. I don't like cancel culture and I don't like false parameters being put around speech. I'm almost a First Amendment absolutist. And I'm worried about what's happening to the country along these lines. So I think it's worth fighting for. And I wanted a forum that I would control so that I would not be cancelable.
Right on. Still feel that way. So Carlos let me promote my podcast that you're listening to right now in its infancy on his show. And we became friendly. I never saw him socially, but he had me on a few times. And then eventually I had him on my baby podcast, as I pointed out. And it was kind of interesting. I mean, I remember what I was interested in getting Carlos's bio, and it was tough. I wasn't really able to. This was still in our audio only days. I was still in my children's playroom. We've grown since then. And he came on and he was a bit inscrutable, but I tried. Listen.
I want to learn how you're thinking, how you came to that, what you would do with that. Would you ever consider something else? Like, who moves you? And you're always going to end up being surprised, right? Like, you know, and if you stay in it and you're just with the person, they're going to share something that reminds you that most of us are contradictions, right? That what did Dr. King he loved that quote there was a famous quote that used to say, "There's enough stuff in me to make both a gentleman and a rogue," right? Mm-hmm. And I think very few of us are only one thing or the other.
Oh, he was telling me something there, and I really should have listened. Okay, so that's where we were as of 2021. Then Carlos was running these things called Ozy Fests, and it was like, you know, a big gathering of muckety-mucks where you'd get together and have onstage conversations, and there'd be all these well-known people out there, and I guess potentially networking opportunities if you're a networker, which I infamously am not. I'm very bad at networking. I'm usually like, I want to go home and be alone. But anyway, he really, really wanted me to go down to, where was it, Abby? What city? It was in Florida? No, I think it was... Wasn't it like New Orleans? I think it was New Orleans. Okay, anyway, he wanted me to go down to the Southeast and appear at Ozy Fest with him. And he had his right-hand man, Samir, call Abby, and he dealt with Abby a million times saying, please, 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 can we have Megyn? She's like, I don't know. She doesn't really like to do these things, but please, 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 please. Carlos would really be appreciative. Okay. So I wound up deciding to do, every year I do a girls trip with two of my closest friends. We've been dear, dear friends for 20 plus years from Chicago. I said, maybe they'll come join me down there. I can make a thing out of it. So that's what our plan was. Andrea and Rebecca were going to join me, and we were going to go down to, I think it's New Orleans, for the Ozy Fest. And we were getting right up to it. And Abigail Finan is a nutcase when it comes to confirming my appointments. I mean, she will harass you to like the second I walk on stage to make sure that everything is as it should be in a good way. Not for the person getting targeted, but for me. And she kept calling Samir, and she wasn't getting called back. He'd shoot her a note, whatever. It was just kind of weird for an organization that's, supposed to be a professional news organization and independent media company that Carlos has started with this huge YouTube presence and these other shows and so on. And we were getting to the point where I was like, all right, if they don't call us back, I'm not going. It's not my problem. It's their problem. And then something hit the news that explained why we'd been getting the runaround. Okay. It was a New York Times piece that hit, I think, September 26th, 2021. Okay, September 26th, 2021. So not that long after we'd been on each other's shows and so on. And here's the headline of the New York Times piece. Goldman Sachs, Ozy Media, and a $40 million conference call gone wrong. I'm going to read you some of this piece. This past winter, Goldman Sachs was closing in on a $40 million investment in Ozy, a digital media company founded in 2013. And there seemed to be a lot of reasons to do the deal. Ozy boasted of a large audience for its general interest website, its newsletters, its videos, and the company had a charismatic chief executive, Carlos Watson, a one-time cable news anchor, he worked at MSNBC, who had worked at Goldman Sachs early in his career. FYI, he went to Harvard undergrad and Stanford Law School, though it does not appear he practiced law for any meaningful time, if at all. And crucially, Ozy said it had a great relationship with YouTube, where many of its videos attracted more than 1 million views. All right, I'm going to pause here. So this is all consistent with what I knew of Carlos and Ozy Media at that time. And what was happening was Carlos was trying to get another round of funding into his company so he could expand. I don't do funding on the Megyn Kelly Show. I never have. I don't take big investments from outside investors to fund my show or my hiring. I have a partnership with Sirius, which has been a blessing and it's worked out amazingly. But I don't go to investors to have them give me their money so that I can put the show on the air. It would create more problems than it would ever solve. That's my business model. There are many other places that do take money. I think the Daily Wire, I know that they have some investors, and that's fine. I'm not criticizing them at all. I'm just saying there's different models. And Carlos was more in that model where he was taking outside investment, trying to grow his company. Well, in an effort to do that, he had gone to Goldman Sachs and he had asked for over $40 million. And Goldman Sachs will give you $40 million for your media company if you can show that you are a success and that you're going to make this money plus back for them. They're not in the business of charitable donations. So they were going through this process. And one of the things that Goldman Sachs wanted to do before it loaned Carlos or invested Carlos Watson in Carlos Watson's company was to see more about those YouTube numbers, because that was really the crux of his success. That's where he was putting all his points on the board. That plus his alleged newsletter, which he was claiming had 20 million subscribers, which is huge, huge. So they asked, Goldman did, if they could have a conference call with the YouTube executive responsible for running business with Carlos, for being in business with Carlos, which Carlos said he was with YouTube. Now, normally the way it works on YouTube is you're not in business with them. They have a platform. They'll allow you to come on it unless you really screw up over and over, in which case you could get booted. But it's not really a business relationship in virtually any case. I think they've been trying to get a business relationship with people like Mr. Beast, right? He's got 300 million subscribers. But in general, we're all just visitors perched on their platform, and they'll allow us to advertise there and to make money there, and they make money. But, it's not like they've hired us or they license us or anything like that. So there is a man named Alex Piper. I believe it's a man. Alex Piper, head of unscripted programming for YouTube Originals. Yeah, it's a man. And so Ozy and Carlos Watson and Samir said, yeah, we'll put you in touch with Alex Piper, and he will tell you all about how amazing we are on YouTube. Back to the Times article. The scheduled participants included Alex Piper, who was running late for the meeting with Goldman Sachs, and apologized to the Goldman Sachs team, saying that he had had trouble logging onto Zoom. Keep in mind, this is 2021 still. And he suggested that the meeting be moved to a conference call, according to 4 people. Once everyone had made the switch to an old-fashioned conference call, the guest, Alex Piper, told the bankers what they had been wanting to hear, that Ozy was a great success on YouTube, racking up significant views and ad dollars, and that Mr. Watson was as good a leader as he seemed to be. As he spoke, however, this Alex Piper, his voice began to sound strange to the Goldman Sachs team, as though it might have been digitally altered. After the meeting, someone on the Goldman Sachs side reached out to Mr. Piper, not through the Gmail address that had been provided by the Ozy team to Goldman Sachs, but through the YouTube executive, Mr. Piper's assistant at YouTube. They found another way to go directly to Alex Piper. That's when things got weird, reading here from the Times article. A confused Mr. Piper told the Goldman Sachs investor who was calling that he had never spoken with her before, even though he had allegedly just had a conference call with her about how great Ozy was and Carlos Watson. Someone else, it seemed, had been playing the part of Mr. Piper on the call with Ozy. This is unbelievable. When YouTube learned that someone had apparently impersonated one of their executives at a business meeting, its security team started an investigation. The inquiry did not get far before a name emerged. Within days, Mr. Watson apologized profusely to Goldman Sachs, saying the voice on the call belonged to Samir Rao, the co-founder and chief operating officer of Ozy and Abigail Finance's friend, who is apparently busy defrauding Goldman Sachs. So he couldn't get right back to Abby about my appearance at Ozy Fest. For those of us who have been holding our breath for the past several months, we can finally exhale in the wake of this presidential election, right? Work can finally be done on the major issues that this country's facing, and one of the most significant is our national debt. Look, the fact is our nation's broke, and that debt is a house of cards that cannot be quickly dismantled by anyone. So the strategy remains the same when it comes to your investments. You might want to diversify your savings. Virtually all the experts say that's a good idea. This is why I want to tell you about Birch Gold. So many things are out of our control and out of our president's control that it really can be important to have a safe haven for your savings. Birch Gold Group can help you if you would like to convert all or part of an IRA or 401k into an IRA in physical gold, which is like a hedging of the bets. And the best news is it does not cost you 1 cent out of pocket. You just text MK to 989898 and you get your free info kit. And plus right now you will receive a free 1 ounce Silver Eagle for every $5,000 purchased Silver Eagle coin. Protect your savings with Birch Gold. Text MK to 989898 and claim your eligibility for free silver today. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.